welcome here to Clare Abbey, Clare G headquarters. Sorry for just delayed there for a couple of minutes, and we're live here now for the draws following the results of yesterday's games. 29 games were played over the weekend in this Senior Championship, Intermediate Championship, Junior A Championship and Junior B Championship. Tonight we'll be doing the draws for the Junior A Championship, losers and winners round, the Intermediate losers and winners round, and finally the Senior losers and winners round. We have with me tonight is Joe Cooney, Chairman of County Board, and Detective Sergeant Brian Howard, a native of Kilrush but now a stalwart of Hurling. So Joe, what would you make of the weekend's games? Any surprises?
Actually, look, there was no surprises really. It was some fantastic hurling, some great games, as all grades. I visited, I had the venues over the weekend, and very impressed with the high standard was there after the lockdown for all the summer. I must say teams are good and fit and eager to get going. It was strange to be playing the games behind closed doors, we're all well aware. Something we never saw before in our life, and something we didn't think we'd ever see in our life, to be playing GA matches behind closed doors. But unfortunately that's the way the times we're in at the moment, and hopefully that won't continue much longer.
I suppose we must pay credit to all the clubs outside of Cusick Park who put their venues in top class condition for clubs to take these games, considering the rules and regulations that were in place.
I want to compliment all the clubs that took games at the weekend, and especially the way they had everything organised, their signage, meeting the guidelines, but most important, the amount of shows was there from every club to help and support to get the games played over the weekend. And also the staff at Cusick Park who were simply outstanding, and without all those people we wouldn't have got those 29 games played. So I want to thank them very much, and hopefully that's how we'll be able to work going forward to get our championships completed in 2020.
Thank you very much, Joe. So without further ado, I just want to go through the results of the Junior B Championship and what happens next. The Junior B round 1 results were the Banner 421, Kilmaley 115, Sixmile Bridge 115, Rowan 114, Clonlara 111, O'Callaghan's Mills 12 points, Scariff 220, Aero 10 points, O'Callaghan's Mills 215, Clooney Quinn 23, Fecal 415, Partine 16, Newmarket and Fergus 310, Wolf Tones and Shunna 19, Smith O'Brien 16 points, Cratlow 110. As a consequence of these results, Meelick, Fecal, Newmarket and Fergus and Smith O'Brien's are into the last 8 as their wins were in the first round. The wins for the Banner, Scariff, Sixmile Bridge and Clonlara were in preliminary rounds, so now they play the following round 1 games proper in 2 weeks' time. The Banner versus Tubber, Scariff versus Corrafin, Tulla versus Sixmile Bridge and Whitegate versus Clonlara. And just a few stats for you. Those 24 goals were scored in the Junior B Championship round 1. 25 points was the average per game outside of the goals scored, and the Banner, I suppose no surprise, with a young player called Shane Meehan making his first adult competitive debut, was the highest scores with 421 as Clooney Quinn just managed 2-3. So well done to all the teams, and the first round proper games will happen next week for some of those 4, and then the rest will wait in the last 8, okay? So now we're going to move to the Junior A Championship. There's the losers round first. The results of the Junior A round 1 were Innistimon 112, Aero 15, Broadford 215, St Joseph Door Bearfield 112, O'Callaghan's Mills 216, O'Gunalow 115, Kilmaley 114, Clooney Quinn 113, Ballier 22 points, and Killimona 28, and Crusheen received a walkover from Wolf Tones. So the round 1 winners that go into the winners pot, which will be the second draw, are Innistimon, Broadford, O'Callaghan's Mills, Kilmaley, Ballier and Crusheen. The 5 teams in the losers draw, which you see here in front of us, are Aero Guinness, St Joseph Door Bearfield, O'Gunalow, Clooney Quinn, and Killimona. So the format which will happen for this will be the first drawn out team, because we don't have 3 versus 3 in the losers round. The first drawn out team here from these 5 will get a bye into the next round of the Junior A losers round. Okay? So that we'll ask Joe to draw out the very first team, please.
Okay. And the first team out will be get the bye into the 3rd round, won't have a game in 2 weeks' time, and that team is O'Gunalow.
Okay. So Joe, now we can move on to the next round.
Next team out of the losers pot is St Joseph's, Dover Bearfield.
St Joseph's, Dover Bearfield.
And in round 2, St Joseph's, Dover Bearfield will take on Cloney Quinn.
St Joseph's, Dover Bearfield play Cloney Quinn.
And in the second game, in that round, Erogue Innes.
Erogue Innes.
And Erogue Innes will play Aine Kilnamona.
Aine Kilnamona. So just to repeat that, Ogunlo got to buy into the next round, as Joe said there, and it is St Joseph Dover Bearfield versus Cloney Quinn, and it's Erogue Innes versus Aine Kilnamona. So that is the losers round completed in the junior A hurling. So now it's just a straight 3 teams playing 3 versus 3, and the 3 winners of this go straight into the county junior A semi-final. So Joe, if you're ready.
First team out is Crusheen.
The club I know well, Crusheen.
And Crusheen plays Innes Simon.
Crusheen play Innes Diamond, with the winner of that tie going straight into the county junior A semi-finals.
This team out is Ballyea.
Ballyea, comprehensive winners yesterday.
And Ballyea take on Kilmaley.
Kilmaley, narrow winners over Clooney.
Final 2 teams in the pot. Bradford.
Broadford, 5th team out. And 1 more team to go.
And I presume Bradford will be taking on their neighbours again for the 2nd time in 2 weeks, O'Callaghan's Mills.
O'Callaghan's Mills take on Broadford. Joe Cooney's political base. Right, so the round 1 junior A are winners rounds. The 3 winners will go into the semi-finals. Crusheen versus Innes Diamond, Ballyea versus Kilmaley, and Broadford versus O'Callaghan's Mills. So now we move to the intermediate championship draws. Over the weekend there was a number of great ties in the intermediate hurling championship. The results were Corofin 119, Newmarket and Fergus 112, Rowan 113, Rowan 116, Clonlara 113, Bodyke 217, Killanena 115, St Joseph Dover Bearfield 120, Smith O'Brien's 115, Tulla 117, Scariff 212. A very close encounter there. Tower 313 versus Cracklow 10 points. And the game of the weekend in scoring saw it myself. 6 Mile Bridge 233, Aine Kilnamona 419. Aine Kilnamona were 13 points up at half time. The Bridge came back in 4 extra time and won it comfortably in the finish. And Partine 123, Clarecastle 8 points. So the 8 winners that go into the winners pot are Corofin, Rowan, Bodyke, St Joseph Dover Bearfield, Tulla, Tubber, 6 Mile Bridge, and Partine. Okay, and the 8 losers are Newmarket and Fergus, Clonlara, Killanena, Smith O'Brien's, Scariff, Cracklow, Aine Kilnamona, and Clarecastle. And just for the statisticians, 22 goals were scored in round 1 of the Intermediate Hurling Championship. 32 points was the average score per game outside of goals, and Sixmilebridge, Bridge, no surprisingly, scored 233 to the highest scores, while Clarecastle were the lowest scores with just 8 points. So now, there's just a little regulation here with the draws. Is it 8? 8 winners first.
8 winners, yeah.
8 winners first, yeah. Okay. So the winner first, sorry, yes.
So we'll be drawn.
Winners versus losers.
Yeah. So we'll be drawn from the winners pot, which is on the left-hand side here beside Michael.
And there's a regulation to be mentioned here in this, and it's the same for the round 2 senior hurling football, so senior hurling and intermediate hurling. For round 2, the senior and intermediate hurling championships will be determined by an open draw, but repeat pairings are not permitted. In the event that a repeat pairing arises, the team from the losers' bowl from round 1 will be advanced to the next pairing, and a new team from the losers' bowl will be drawn to play the team from the winners' bowl. In the event that the final pairing drawn is a repeat pairing, the teams from the losers' bowl will be alternated in the final 2 pairings drawn. I know it sounds a bit complicated, we'll go through it slowly and we'll get it through, okay? So the first team we're drawing out now is from the winners' pot, okay?
And just so everyone be clear, there will be no repeat pairings in the next round. First team out from the winners' pot is St. Joseph's, Dover Bearfield.
St. Joseph's, Dover Bearfield.
And the first team out from the losers' pot is Newmarket and Fergus.
So that is a good draw. Newmarket and Fergus, St. Joseph's, Dover Bearfield.
Okay, back to the winners' pot again. Next team out is Tulla.
Tulla. First in the winners' pot, round 2.
So we're going to the losers' pot to see who will take on Tulla. And this team out from the losers' pot is Killanena.
Tulla versus Killanena. A good draw. Draw can stand.
Back to the winners' pot again. This team out is Tubber.
Tubber, 12-point winners over Cratloe.
Back to the other pot. Unfortunately, Cratloe have come out again, so we leave Cratloe one side as they've already played.
And Cratloe go into the next pot, into the fourth and the next draw. So Cratloe go in here into the next draw, and we draw again.
Okay.
We draw again from the losers' pot.
This team out is Aine Kilnamona.
So Aine Kilnamona now play Tubber. Okay? Tubber play Aine Kilnamona. So the next, out of the winners' pot now, we draw the next team to play. The next team drawn out of the winners' pot will now play Cratloe.
Okay. And the team to play Cratloe is Corofin.
Should be very tasty tie. Corofin versus Cratloe.
That's the Cratloe one.
Thank you. So the first 4 drawn are now completion proper. We're out of the winners' pot now for the 5th game drawn. We're halfway there.
And the next team out of the winners' pot is Partine.
9th team drawn. So into the losers' pot again, please. Partine cannot play Clarecastle.
And just at the wrong time you spoke, Michael, so it is Clarecastle. So we leave Clarecastle aside.
Clarecastle go into the sixth draw.
It is Clarecastle, okay. So we have to draw another team out of the losers' pot.
Joe's getting the hang of this, lads. Doing a great job.
And that team is Scariff.
Partine versus Scariff. So now Joe draws again for the winner's pot for the team to play Clare.
And the team that's playing Clare is Bodyke.
Bodyke versus Clare. And Clare, the sticker here. So now Joe, if you can go in for the seventh, the second last, we're nearly there.
Team out here is 6 Mile Bridge.
6 Mile Bridge in the epic game yesterday, signing Kilmona and Tucker.
And 6 Mile Bridge takes on Smith O'Brien's.
In a very good game against St. Joseph Durberton and Bodyke. Smith O'Brien's are up against the 6 Mile Bridge.
And the final team out of the winner's pot is Rowan.
Rowan.
And Rowan plays Clare.
That is
a repeat.
That what happens now is we have to alternate the draws. So now with Rowan drawing Clare, Smith O'Brien's now play Rowan, and 6 Mile Bridge play Clare. Because we alternate the two losers, the last two losers, we'll switch the draws. So I will call out that draws again to you now. The intermediate hurling championship is St. Joseph Durberfield versus Newmarket and Fergus, Tulla versus Killanena, Tubber versus Kilnamona, Corrafin versus Cracklow, Partine versus Scariff, Bodyke versus Clare, 6 Mile Bridge versus Clonlara, and Rowan versus Smith O'Brien's. That is the 8 draws done for the Intermediate Hurling Championship. Some very interesting ties in that. We'll get Seamus Hayes to say a few words at the end of the senior draw about the intermediate and senior, so you can get these notes together. So Joe, any draw down this intermediate hurling we fancied?
Now, we look at some very interesting matches in the majors hurling. As I've said already, teams look to be well prepared and ready for this championship. Didn't get league hurling and are very anxious to continue in the championship and get as many games as possible. So there'll be some very interesting games, and the knocking games will go down to the wire.
6 Mile Bridge Clonlara stands out in a good intermediate game.
Yes.
And also I suppose Corrafin Cracklow would be good, interesting game, and Partine and Scariff would definitely be a very tight game.
Yeah.
Okay, now, so what you'll be waiting for is the Senior Hurling Championship draws. The winners are here, and the losers are in the draw. So the results, yesterday, I suppose we want to go over them again. O'Callaghan's Smith is 213, Broadford 17 points. Clonlara 19 points, Newmarket and Fergus 14, Ballyea 16 points, Crusheen 14 points, 6 Mile Bridge 17 points, Aeroganish 12 points, Fecal 21 points, Whitegate 16 points, Cracklow 315, Kilmaley 211, Kilnamona 217, Clooney Quinn 14 points, and Wolftones and Shunna 419, Clarecastle 16. There was a bit of a famine in goals in the Senior Hurling Championship compared to other ones. Only 14 goals were scored in the Senior Hurling Round 1. 30 points was the average point tally per game outside of goals, and Wolftones were the highest scores with 419, and I think Aaron Shanner came good there with two goals and 9 points, and Aeroga with the lowest scores of 12 points in a very strong performance against 6 Mile Bridge. So the same rules pertain for the Intermediate Championship for the draw as pertain for the Senior. I'll just read them again in case anyone has any questions. Round 2, the Senior and Intermediate Hurling Championship will be determined by open draw, but repeat pairings are not permitted. In the event that a repeat pairing arises, the team from the Losers Bowl from round 1 will be advanced to the next pairing, and a new team from the Losers Bowl will be drawn to play the team from the Winners Bowl, and so on. In the event that the final pairing drawn is a repeat pairing, the teams from the Losers Bowl will be alternating the final 2 pairings drawn, just as happened as in the intermediate draw a minute or 2 ago. So Joe, we'll start off now with the first draw from the Winners' pot.
First team from the winners' pot is Aine Kilnamona.
Aine Kilnamona, very impressive winners against Tony Quinn. First team out.
And the first team out of the losers' pot is Newmarket on Fergus.
Newmarket and Fergus, very gallant losers against Clonlara just by 2 points. So Aine Kilnamona versus Newmarket and Fergus. That is a good draw.
Back to the winners' pot again. Bellier.
Bellier, who scored a 16 to 14 point win over Crusheen yesterday in Music Park.
Bellier will take on Cloney Quinn.
Bellier versus Cloney Quinn. Good draw.
Six Mile Bridge.
County champions in 13, 15, 17 and 19. Will they do 2 in a row? 6 Mile Bridge.
And 6 Mile Bridge take on Errol Guinness, which cannot happen.
Which cannot, maybe Aero Guinness might like it to happen again, but unfortunately it can't. So Aero Guinness dropped to the next, they dropped to the next pot.
We'll leave the back here, and we'll draw again from the losers' pot.
And the next draw from Joe will play 6 Mile Bridge.
Whitegate.
Transfahi, manager Whitegate will relish the chance of taking on Dave Fitzgerald 6 Mile Bridge. 6 Mile Bridge versus Whitegate. That's a good draw. Next team out now will play Aero Guinness from the winners' pot, Joe.
And the team from the winners' pot is Cratloe.
Cratloe versus Aero, that is a great game. Cratloe versus Aero Guinness, 2 positive teams. That's a good draw. So we're halfway there now in the Senior Hurling Championship. Good games already, and there's some big shots yet to come.
We're back to the winners' pot again. Wolf Tones.
Wolf Tones, the Shunna, highest scores of the week in the Senior Hurling Championship.
Wolf Tones have run against Clare Castle, but they've already made. So
they dropped down 1. So Wolf Tones, Clare Castle will drop down into the 6th pairing.
So we'll leave them back there and we'll draw again, see who will play Wolf Tones from the losers' pot. Kilmaley.
Wolf Tones versus Kilmaley. Two good teams that will score a lot. Will be a very good game. Wolf Tones versus Kilmaley.
So we're drawn from the winners' pot again
yes.
to know who will play Clare Castle. Fecal.
Thank you very much. Fecal versus Clare Castle. And there's the Clare Castle. There you go. So Joe, we're 2 to go.
We're back to the winners' pot again. This team out of the winners' pot is Clonlara.
Clonlara, narrow winners up to Newmarket and Fergus.
And Clonlara take on Crusheen.
Clonlara take on Crusheen.
Final team out of the winners' pot is O'Callaghan's Mills.
O'Callaghan's Mills, strong second half showing against Broadford, got him over the line the weekend. O'Callaghan's Mills.
And O'Callaghan's Mills take on Broadford, which cannot happen with repeat pairing.
O'Callaghan's Mills take on Broadford, so we swap them around. So what happens now is Clonlara take on Broadford and O'Callaghan's Mills take on Crusheen. Okay? I will call out the draws for the Senior Hurling Championship Round 2. Aine Kilnamona versus Newmarket and Fergus. Ballyea versus Cloney Quinn. 6 Mile Bridge versus Whitegate. Cratloe versus Aero Guinness, Wolf Tones versus Kinmary, Fecal versus Tyrcastle, Clonlara versus Broadford, and O'Callaghan's Mills versus Crusheen. If Seamus can come up here, we might have a few words with him. But Joe, what you make of them? There's
some very interesting draws there again.
Read my right.
Yeah. Again, look at they're all going to be tough games again. I believe these games will go down to the wire because whoever loses the next day will be well aware they're gone out to the championship for 2020, and you can be sure that no one go down without a fight. So some very interesting games in it, in fairness. I suppose really the standout tie in this one would be there's a lot of standout ties. Wolf Tones and Kilmaley will be very interesting one. As Michael said, Wolf Tones ran up a big score at the weekend, so they'll be fancying their chances. Kilmaley, of course, done very well as well at the weekend and really put up to Cratloe. Einig in the morning, the Max and Fergus, another very interesting one. Hard to know how to go, but you can be sure all the teams that lost at the weekend will want to win a game in the 2020 championship, and I'm sure they're going to be very, very interesting games in 2 weeks' time.
Good. So Seamus, we're just bringing in just, I suppose Joe's giving an overview. Is there what would you take of the draws are now, anything that catches your eye?
Sure, they're all very interesting games. I think, having watched the games at the weekend, the Cratloe Aero game is likely to be quite a lively game. Both teams were lively at the weekend. Aero, I suppose, without David Reedy, it was a big blow to them against Sixmile Bridge, but the Bridge experience stood out in that one. But Cratloe and Aero, I think, will be quite a lively game. They're all going to be strong games. Wolf Tones and Kilmaley, you mentioned. Einig Kilmare and Newmarket could be a very lively game. There won't be much in it. Newmarket were, according to some people, slightly unlucky not to have got more up in their game at Clonlara at the weekend. Einig Kilmare had it easy enough against a very injury hit Clooney Quinn team, so they'll be tested the next day. Clonlara and Broadford, neighbouring teams, neighbouring clubs, so there'll be a lot at stake there. But as the chairman mentioned there, obviously this is the big round. Lose this and your year is over, you're out of your championship, and that's will make teams sit up and take notice.
Is there any draw in the intermediate catch your eye?
The intermediate is always a very hard championship to win in Clare. Tubber and Einig Kilmare. Einig Kilmare will be stung a bit from having lost to Sixmile Bridge in the first round, having had such a big lead at half time. Tubber would be seen as one of the strong teams managed by former Galway player Ira Tanyan, so they're going to take some beating. Partine ran up a big score in winning their game against Scariff team, who I suppose will want to bounce back from the disappointment of losing narrowly to Tulla. There's a lot at stake. Sixmile Bridge and Clonlara are meeting there. Neighbouring clubs and a lot of players with experience playing there. Tulla and Killanena, East Clare neighbours. I suppose Tulla will fancy their chances, having got a good start yesterday. But I can Clarecastle another game that could be close. There's a lot to play for again. It's like the senior lose and your year is over. So clubs will be working very hard over the next 2 weeks to study the opposition and have their plans in place.
Yeah, I suppose one thing you factor how a team improves from having played a game, because you may play 2 or 3 challenge matches, you may be training, but a championship match will decide how you're going and how you'll actually come out of losing a game mentally as opposed to winning a game.
Yeah, talking to a lot of the managers involved at the weekend, they were of the view that you can play all the challenges you want, but they don't really show where you really are at, and that the weekend's games will be worth 2 or 3 challenges really to everybody, and that they'll have learned a lot more. So it'll be interesting to see how teams react to the weekend performances, heading into 2 weeks' time. It certainly will have brought teams on, and the competitive edge now is obviously going to make for great games. I suppose the only pity is that spectators won't be able to get into the games, but they'll be live streamed and hopefully they'll be able to see them there, because they'll have some mouth-watering contests there.
I suppose to put you in this, I suppose this weekend now we can park the senior hurling for a week. Now the senior football is on and intermediate and junior starting off. I suppose a lot of action in Cusick Park and Midtown and other venues like that.
Yeah, a lot of big games this weekend. I suppose obviously the standout fixtures are repeated last year's final between neighbours Midtown and Kilmurray or Brecon. Again, it's like the hurling, teams have been playing challenge games, but they really want out of the competitive nature this weekend as to where they're really at. And clubs, a lot of the jewel clubs picked up injuries at the weekend, to be able to see how they will affect him. Cratloe picked up 1 or 2 injuries last end of ice, so he'd be a big blow to them if he's not available for this coming weekend. And Colin McKinnon didn't play last week. It's going to be tough on the likes of the jewel players. Conor Cleary, had a big game with Kilmaley, but he's captain, now involved with Milltown against their neighbours, and you know, there's a lot at stake again this weekend for those players.
Is there one game in the senior football that catches your eye outside of the Big Two meeting?
Well, I suppose outside the Big Two meeting, Clare and St. Brechan's has the potential to be a lively game. They've met at underage level minor and under 21 a bit in the last couple of years. And I suppose Cratlow against Lissy Hasey, you know, Cratlow will probably be seen as slight favourites, but there shouldn't be that much in it. You know, they had a great first round 2 years ago, which went extra time before Cratlow got through. You know, and it should be close enough again there.
And so, to test your memory, is there one game in the intermediate championship you might say, well, that's a game to watch, that's a game to look out for future championship contenders?
Yeah, the intermediate football, I would see the Naomh and St. Joseph Road-Breffel game, you know, has been potentially a very close game. Naomh are knocking on the door in the last year or two. St. Joseph's are only after, you know, going down from senior ranks recently, and I don't think there'll be much between.
Are you suggesting a shock for the peninsula?
They won't be far off it. Yeah, they're a good team, and you know, they have been knocking on the doors, I say, for the last year or two, and you know, they'll threaten any of the superpowers, I suppose, if you like. And intermediate, and obviously Corofin and Kildysart is a big game. You know, Kildysart last year's beaten finals, Corofin relegated last year, so there'll be a lot at stake there. Even though neither will be out if they lose, but neither will want to lose this one. This is the one that we're putting down the marker because most would see one or other the favourites to win the championship.
I suppose one fine point, I suppose we noticed, like there was the talk, I suppose, in the senior hurling and all the championships that you had this was really only a testing ground, or say a challenge match theory was going on, but there was definitely some matches I saw in the park where there was no challenge match going on. Teams wanted to win.
Well, anybody who saw the weekend's games will know that nobody wanted to lose at the weekend. There was a fierce competitive edge to all the games. Some maybe were higher standard than the others, but no team wants to lose their first round. And all the people were saying last week, it's far easier to motivate and prepare your team for round 2 on the back of a win than it is on the back of a defeat. So, you know, they'll all want the boost of a win as they prepare for round 2.
Okay. So, again, thanks very much to Seamus, to Joe Cooney, and to Detective Sergeant Brian Howard. We are getting ready for another action. We've had 29 great games this weekend in the senior hurling, intermediate and junior A and junior B. The same will be starting again next weekend in the intermediate, senior, junior A and junior B football championship. We hope to see you on Clare TV, or if not, if you're fortunate enough to get one of the board and tickets go to matches, they'll also be on Clare Radio as well, so, or on Twitter and Facebook. So again, thanks very much for tuning in for the draws, and I wish everyone a safe weekend and abide with the social distance, and we'll talk again next weekend. Thank you very much.